What does it add to a country to actually embrace its Indigenous language?
Well, I think the people of Wales, we recognise that we are a bilingual nation. We are a nation, we're a bilingual nation, but there are other languages that are spoken in Wales, but there are two official languages here in Wales, and it's important that we celebrate the language. The language is an inherent part of our nation's culture, and I think it's important that not only do we recognise that, in legal terms, but also in broader terms, but that we celebrate that. And I think the work that the International Association of Language Commissioners, for example, do. We learn from our experiences in various jurisdictions, but it's also an opportunity for us to celebrate the successes in respective jurisdictions. So I think it's really important that we embrace our culture, that we celebrate it, and that we give people the opportunities to use that language.
Last question, if you would like to play a game with me. And the game is, imagine you've finished working for the Welsh Language Commissioner and you're now out consulting to other countries as to why they should embrace their Indigenous languages. Here in New Zealand, we have a government at the moment who, it's not that they're not embracing it, but they're making sure that English comes first. What advice would you give to them in this split parallel multiverse as to why they should perhaps think about embracing our Māori language, or perhaps whatever country it is, their Indigenous language, more heartily?
Well, I think, from our experience, look back to 2011, we're 15 years into this piece of legislation. And I think from our experience, we've seen a real step change in terms of the way that organisations deliver services through the medium of Welsh. And what that has meant is that the people here in Wales have more opportunities to use the Welsh language when they access services. They can see the Welsh language, whether that's on signs. They are able to access websites from public bodies. They are able to use the language in their everyday lives. And I think that's been we've seen a real step change in that sense. And as I said, I go back to the point I was making in response to your earlier question. I think it's really important that, any government reflects the culture and the values of that country, and language is an inherent part of that culture. So I think, it's important for any government to take proactive steps to promote minority official Indigenous languages.
So that's all I'm going to play for you from that conversation. A couple of things before I throw you the ball, Chewie. Just so people are aware, Welsh speakers are 17%. So it's not like it's an 80%, 17% Welsh speakers, which means obviously by far and away the English language is the dominant language. Here's the thing I discovered when I started doing that, and this is the uncomfortable truth, right? If you think about countries who are in the Commonwealth or who were in the Commonwealth, America could be included, USA could be included. If you think about those countries where the Indigenous language, for want of a better word, is brown, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, USA, those places. Those are the places where the government and the governmental bodies, and there is a big public push for squashing the Indigenous language and uplifting the European language. The countries in the Commonwealth where the Indigenous language would be seen as white, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, even though they're a minority, the government does the opposite. And I'm not saying, imagine this, Chewie will tell you, I spent weeks looking at this. We spent weeks looking over these things, going all over the world, connecting with people from Wales to talk to about it. Mm-hmm. The predominant white cultures with a brown Indigenous language squash it. The predominant white cultures with a white Indigenous language, they celebrate it. It's just as black and white as that. And there's one thing that I've never noticed before about this, and it's fascinating. They brought legislation, and they being Wales, brought legislation in 2011. And this is where they are 14 years later. Chewie, do you know off the top of your head, or do you want to have a guess when the Māori Language Act came in?
Wasn't it in the 90s?
1987. 1987.
1987.
1987. The Māori Language Act is turning 40 in 18 months.
Yeah.
These guys have been there for 14 years, and they are so much further ahead of us in how they're dealing with their Indigenous language. And part of it is simple as these people at the top, let's just say two things. They're speaking to their base who can't look at a brown face and go, I am them and they are me. They can't do that. And because they can't look at a brown face and go, I am them or they are me, they can't accept the language that comes out of that face. I've said this before a dozen times. I am Celtic. I am so white. I'm nearly pale blue. I'm one of those people who goes to the beach for a day, comes home and peels all my skin off that's just turned red. But I feel attached to the Māori story because the Māori story is a huge part, perhaps the biggest part of the New Zealand story. If you want to be a part of the New Zealand story, you cannot reject the Māori story. If you want to pass legislation to further the New Zealand story in New Zealand, you can't diminish Te Reo Māori or the Māori way of doing things. You can't. And this is what you don't quite understand. If you can't look into a brown face and see yourself, no matter how pale blue you are, my ginger brothers and sisters, then you are the problem in this country.